Production of Kansas City Week in Review is made possible through the generous support of Dave and Jamie Cummings, Smithfield Foods, Haas and Wilkerson Insurance, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Coming up, the bi-state ballot battle. We push aside our reporters to bring you the two biggest ballot questions on both sides of state line. Tobacco taxes in Missouri, and in Kansas, a tax hike to pay for a new courthouse in Johnson County. Hello, I'm Nick Haynes. Supporters and opponents of both of those issues join us this half hour in this Kansas City Week in Review election special. We begin in Missouri, where voters are getting to grips with the longest ballot in memory, along with deciding the presidency, a U.S. Senate seat, and the governor's office. There are 13 different state and local questions on the ballot. The headliner issue, Constitutional Amendment 3. You may have seen the ads.
The proposal creates a special new fund that is dedicated exclusively to early childhood health and education.
Amendment 3 would raise Missouri's lowest in the nation tobacco tax by 60 cents, with the proceeds going to early childhood education programs.
If you think Amendment 3 is about the kids, look more closely.
Opponents say the tax is deceptive. It's funded by Big Tobacco, and there's no guarantee that the money will benefit kids. To confuse matters further, Missouri voters are also being asked to decide a rival tobacco tax question called Proposition A, which would raise taxes on a pack of cigarettes by a more modest 23 cents. Well, we unpack those issues now with Jack Carderi, chief spokesman for the Vote Yes on 3 for Kids campaign, and the amendment's top opponent, Ron Leone, executive director of the Missouri Petroleum Marketers and Convenience Store Association. Jack, let's begin with you. We see these bright, sparkly-looking kids on the yard signs, and we see them in the ads. But where does the actual money go if you say yes to this vote, this Amendment 3?
Absolutely, Nick. It's a pretty simple and straightforward idea. We have the lowest tobacco tax in the entire nation, 17 cents, hasn't been raised in 23 years. We would take that money and put it towards early childhood education in Missouri. Our neighboring states are getting ahead economically and in the classroom because they're investing in early childhood education. We would put this in a fund in state government that could not be touched by politicians. In essence, it would be like how we fund conservation and transportation in Missouri, where politicians aren't allowed to spend that money. Instead, there is a board of specialists and those that know about early childhood education that would end up giving out these grants.
Now, in your commercials, though, Ron, you said we've heard this before on things like the Missouri Lottery and on riverboat gaming. The money never went to the places that was stated.
There is no such thing as a lockbox. Amendment 3 is not a lockbox. It's more of a slush fund. And the reason I say that is because the slush fund is controlled by 13 unelected and unaccountable bureaucrats. And I know this from experience. I've been doing this for 20 plus years. Let me tell you what's going to happen. The money that flows through Amendment 3 goes to Jefferson City, goes through the appropriations process. That means hundreds of bureaucrats, 197 state legislators, senators and representatives, 1 governor, have many opportunities to decrease, divert, or delay that money. Whatever money ultimately makes it through that particular episode goes into this fund, which literally gets doled out by the unelected and unaccountable bureaucrats.
So how do you respond to that then, Jack?
Let me tell you why that's not correct at all. There's a reason more than 100 Missouri politicians are actually opposing this early childhood education. And they're opposing it for one simple reason. They can't get their hands on the money. Politicians love to get their hands on the money. They like to spend it on on their pork projects, on special interests back in their county. They can't do this here. The money is constitutionally protected. It's allocated on a local basis by county, and politicians can't get their hands on their money. Ron and his group, they're in charge of one thing. They're in charge to make sure that Missouri continues to be the dumping ground for cheap cigarettes in the nation. What Ron's trying to do is put fear into voters.
Okay, Jack talks about fear. Let's talk about some of your yard signs and your ads. And one of the statistics on them is that 747% tax increase, raising the cigarette tax from 17 cents to 60 cents. That's nowhere near a 747% tax increase. Where did that figure come from, Ron?
Your intro was wrong, and I don't mean to say that the host is wrong, but you have to remember this is
You're allowed to correct me.
This is why I say it's a scam being perpetrated by Big Tobacco. 60 cents applies to Big Tobacco, $1.27 applies to their little tobacco competition. That's the 747% tax increase. That's why we use that number.
What is little tobacco for people who don't smoke?
They're companies you've probably never heard of if you're not a smoker. So Big Tobacco is RJR Company, things like that. Little Tobacco are groups called like Cheyenne and Excalibur. And again, if you don't smoke their products, you've probably never heard of them. I don't smoke. I never heard of them until they became members of my
Jack, why
association.
wouldn't you just have the tax increase be exactly the same for all tobacco companies?
It's the same for all tobacco. What this does is it closes the tobacco tax loophole. 46 states signed the master settlement agreement against the tobacco companies. 45 of those states require all tobacco companies, regardless of whether or not you were in business at the time of that, to put money into an escrow fund for additional health reasons, and they can get that money back eventually. Missouri's the only state that has left that tobacco loophole open. This closes the loophole. There's widespread support for closing this loophole, because what happens is we go back and get audited as a state, whether or not we've done a good job enforcing the master settlement agreement. Because this year we had not closed that loophole and have not done a good job enforcing it, we had to literally write a $50 million check to the tobacco companies here because we hadn't been doing a good job. This closes that loophole. It puts us on par with every other state, and that's one of the reasons that these tobacco companies Ron's talking about are the ones actually funding the no side of this campaign. They're using his PAC and his members' PAC as a slush fund to run these negative ads that we're seeing.
Let's talk about some of the other concerns that people have about the ballot language itself. The ACLU is one of those organizations troubled that Amendment 3 allows tax money to go to private or religious schools, otherwise prohibited in the Constitution. None of the funds can go to organizations that provide abortion services or for human cloning and embryonic stem cell research or on tobacco-related research. So why put those restrictions in this ballot at all when those have nothing to do with trying to stop people from smoking or improving early childhood education outcomes for children in Missouri?
Sure, because we want to make sure this is a true lockbox, that all the money that's raised by taking the lowest in the nation cigarette tax, raising it 60 cents, putting it to early childhood education can only be spent on that. What we saw 4 years ago when a tobacco tax was on the ballot, Mr. Leone, his groups, those tobacco companies that opposed this, the last 2 weeks of the campaign, they went out and they sent direct mail, that flyers, robocalls, and they said, don't vote for tobacco tax. The money will go towards abortion and all these other controversial measures. We wanted to make absolutely clear to voters that that won't happen here. If you vote yes on Amendment 3, the money will only go towards early childhood education and children and their families. So we put that in because of the man that's sitting here to my left. The tactics he's used in the past are really put a lot of doubt into voters' mind. We wanted to clear that up.
You could be in favor of early childhood development and still be against Big Tobacco's Amendment 3 scam. Those things are not incongruous. So for Jack to make it seem as if you have to be one and the other, it's just not fair. And for him again to say we're the dumping ground of cheap cigarettes, we're not the dumping ground of cheap cigarettes. We sell the same cigarettes as everybody else. Our tobacco tax is lower than most other states, all other states, and we think that's not a bad thing. Certainly Amendment 3 is a bad idea because, again, it benefits Big Tobacco and makes it even bigger. That's why they're putting $10 million into that campaign.
Now, if you think this is already confusing, a competing proposal known as Proposition A will also be on your November ballot in the state. It asks you for a smaller cigarette tax increase of 23 cents, although it won't require amending the Constitution. That money would be used for state transportation projects. Mr. Leone, it is his organization, the Missouri Petroleum Marketers and Convenience Store Association, that is behind that measure. You say the money goes to transportation.
It does.
What does that actually mean, and how can we be sure that money will go there?
Well, you have to remember, when you do this by initiative petition, it takes months, if not years, to put it by initiative petition something on the ballot. So when we did this, we wanted to take control of our own fate for a change because we're sick of fighting Jack and his group's outrageous and unfair tax increases every couple of years. We wanted to be proactive. We wanted to take control of our own fate. So we put forward our own tobacco tax increase. It doesn't say anything about stem cell language like Jack's does. It doesn't say anything about abortion services. It doesn't say public money for private school. It does one thing and one thing only. It increases the tobacco tax, a fair and reasonable, but still 135%, and it puts that money into an existing need, no new programs, no new bureaucracies, doesn't amend the Constitution. Constitution, and it benefits all Missourians because everybody benefits by better roads and bridges. It's very simple. We did it by statute. That's why it's called Proposition A versus Amendment 3, so that if in the future the circumstances on the grounds change, the legislature can actually change the proposition, the law that we're passing, in order to make changes that are required as a result
Now,
of
Jack,
facts
this
on the
also
ground.
involves raising then the cigarette tax. That would mean, presumably, that there will be fewer people smoking because the tax rate would go up. Isn't that something you would support?
So Ron's group put this forward for one reason only, to confuse voters. There's a reason not a single transportation advocate is supporting Proposition A, because it's not a real thing. In Proposition A, there's a poison pill. It simply says that if this passes in November, if any state or local government in Missouri ever even puts a tobacco tax on the ballot, it fully negates Proposition A. So if any of Missouri's 114 counties, any city or the state even puts an initiative to raise a tobacco tax by 1 cent on the ballot, it goes away permanently and forever. That's the type of dirty tricks that we're going up against here.
Well, let's put that so-called poison pill clause on the screen right now, which states that this would be repealed if any local or county measure is put on the ballot to increase cigarette or other tobacco products. Why put that language on the ballot at all?
Because
Ron?
we wanted to take control of our own fate. We don't want to tax ourselves through Proposition A, and then 2 years later, Jack has a new client that wants to tax us for whatever pet project is paying him at that particular time. So if we wanted to tax ourselves, we wanted to make sure in a year or two we don't get popped again. I think it's impressive that Jack can sit there with a straight face and make it seem as if we have poison pills in Prop A, which we're very open and honest about. Whereas when you look at Amendment 3, his client, Big Tobacco, RJR, has put a bunch of gag orders in there. The money can't be used for tobacco-related research. The money can't be used for tobacco-related lobbying in order to increase taxes or increase regulations on tobacco products. It's also interesting that Big Tobacco, which pays Jack and which drafted Amendment 3, chose to just tax cigarettes. They don't tax cigars, they don't tax chew, they don't tax for the roll your own stuff. And the reason they don't is because that's a huge cash cow for Big Tobacco and Jack's client, whereas Proposition A taxes all of it and does it evenly and doesn't pick winners and losers like Jack's client tries to do through Amendment 3.
What if somebody on this program right now sees this conversation and says, you know, I'm going to vote for both of these. I actually like Proposition A and I like the idea of the Constitution Amendment 3. Let's have both taxes. What would happen then, Jack?
Well, ultimately they'll both go into effect, but Ron's group will come back instantly, have a city or a county in Missouri go ahead and put a 1 cent tobacco tax on the ballot, and it'll negate all of Proposition A. So the only real serious issue here is Amendment 3. Are we going to raise our lowest in the nation tobacco tax to actually fund early childhood education? The 20-cent increase going towards transportation is nothing but a red herring. Their group put this on the ballot for one reason only, to confuse Missouri voters.
It's so ridiculous for Jack to say that we started gathering signatures on our Proposition A before they started gathering signatures on their Amendment 3. So for them to say somehow we're doing it to deflect something we didn't even know about at the time is utterly ridiculous and is part of the smokescreen that his client is trying to throw up. The answer to your question is nobody knows the answer to your question because it's never happened before where two tobacco taxes have passed. So there's two options, one on top of the other, or the one with the higher yes votes negates the other. But nobody really knows how that's ultimately going to play out.
Jack Cardetti is chief spokesman for the Vote Yes on 3 for Kids campaign, and Ron Leone is executive director of the Missouri Petroleum Marketers and Convenience Store Association. Thank you to the both of you for coming on the program. Up next, we head to the Kansas side of state line, where voters a week on Tuesday will be deciding whether to raise their taxes to build a new 9-story courthouse in Johnson County. Built in 1952, government leaders claim the current Johnson County Courthouse in Olathe is now too small. Its layout compromises security, with defendants passing their accusers in the same public hallways. And if you're disabled, the building is almost impossible to access. And they claim they need a new coroner's lab. Right now, Johnson County outsources its autopsies to a facility in Kansas City, Kansas.
I've been involved with the coroner's office in Johnson County for about the last 20 years. During all of those 20 years, we have rented facilities from other people in order to do our autopsies.
But are these enough reasons to hike up the sales tax in Johnson County by 1/4 cent? Enough reasons to tear down a 60-year-old building just to construct a new one right next door? Opponents disagree that safety has been an issue, and they claim the county could make the facility ADA compliant without the expense of a new building. They're also alarmed that nearly $4 out of every $10 raised in the sales tax election won't go to courthouse construction, but will be parceled out to local cities for them to spend as they please. Encouraging you to vote yes on the courthouse is the head of Johnson County government, Ed Eilert, and Johnson County Commissioner Michael Ashcraft, who voted against placing the sales tax on the ballot. He is a management consultant from Olathe. Thank you so much for being here. You know, Ed Eilert, there is a debate going on in Kansas City, Missouri over this airport and whether they should spend hundreds of millions of dollars renovating the airport or having a brand new terminal there. Could the same case be made here in Johnson County? Does it make more sense to renovate the existing facility than building a brand new one?
I think if you look at the numbers, it does. When I came on the commission in 2007, one of the first projects that was presented was a new courthouse. This has been under consideration by the county commission for 10 or 12 years. That first project was $300 million, by the way. And the commission and the staff said, no, we're not going there. And I was a skeptic that we really needed a new courthouse. But when you value engineer the project and you focus on what's needed rather than a want, the proposal is for a new courthouse at a cost of $182 million to renovate the existing courthouse and meet future demands would cost in excess of $200 million.
So if it would cost more to actually renovate the existing building, isn't it foolish not to build a new building?
One of the things that I have been struggling with is if you look at the actual number of case filings in the court from 2006, we averaged about 55,000 filings a year. If you look at what we did last year, that's down to about 42,000. So we're actually filing fewer cases. Fewer cases are going before the court. And if that line continues, by the time the courthouse is done, we actually will have less than 40,000 filings a year. So we're going to spend, or we're going to ask taxpayers to spend $400 million a year, or for this project, to build a $200 million courthouse, plus a coroner's facility, plus give about $150 million to the cities to spend on what they want to spend, so that we can go from 25 courtrooms to 28 courtrooms. And I just struggle with that in terms of, is that really the best use of that money?
Well, I think that trajectory is wrong. As we look at demographic trends in Johnson County, it's anticipated by independent studies, Wichita State University, that we will gain population in the order of 11,000 to 12,000 folks a year. So every 6 years, about 60,000 people. That's equivalent to the current size of the city of Manhattan. So to equate a caseload of 42,000 today, that trajectory is going to continue to go down, just does not make sense. We currently have 23 courtrooms in the courthouse, not 25. And so a new court facility would be built for 28. And even to renovate and to bring the current facility up to ADA requirements and address the aging infrastructure is about a $70 million investment in a 60-year-old building.
One more comment, though, to respond to Ed. Actually, there are 25 courtrooms. The staff came up with this. There are 23 judges and 2 hearing officers. There are 25 courtrooms now. Now, in terms of ADA, and this is for all those folks out there that are real fact checkers, they may want to go to the ada.gov website.
That's 78% of our audience.
Very good. On the ada.gov website, there's a question. Do we have to retrofit every existing municipal building in order to meet accountability requirements for ADA? The answer is no, period.
Let's go back to the number of cases and the trajectory that my colleague has outlined. The district attorney tells me that criminal cases alone are up 8.5% over last year. I think to make a judgment based upon a continuing decline in court filings just doesn't make sense. There are all kinds of issues beyond criminal filings. You have adoptions, you have custody, you have child in need of care, you have juvenile issues, you have even divorces that have to be handled in the civil court. And with an increasing population, the likelihood of those kind of cases declining just does not make sense.
Okay, but you meant, let's go back to the issue of the safety here, which has been brought up as another objection. That would require a different building because the entire layout of the 6-year-old building makes it very difficult that you have offenders seeing victims and witnesses in the same public corridors. Does that require a new building, Michael Ashcraft?
Well, I think the sheriff has done an outstanding job. And if you look in the last 12 years under Frank Denning, there have not been any reported instances, any confrontations outside of what happens in courtrooms. And unfortunately or fortunately in our legal system, both sides of a situation end up in courtroom together. Now, is there some way to keep them separated? I think the sheriff has done a great job, and I think we will continue to do a great job. So that to me is an issue, but it's an issue that we're addressing in the current facility.
I think it is not being addressed. The district attorney who's active in that building on any number of cases will tell you they've come close to having major incidents because as he's escorted victims to the courtroom, you come in contact with the perpetrator or even the individual in irons who are accused of some hideous crime.
One of the objections that has been raised, even among members of the public, is why is this being funded by a sales tax? And I noticed even on the Facebook page of the Yes campaign on this, there's just one comment here from Terry who writes, "No, the sales tax in Johnson County is already too high. The county needs to find another funding source if this is needed. Econ 101, sales tax is regressive and not a fair tax." Was there a consideration of funding this in a different way?
The only option that we have available, and it was considered, is a property tax. So we would have to increase the mill levy to fund this. It would probably require a funding source over 13, 14, 15 years versus a funding source over 10 years. And that would increase the interest costs of the loan by 50 to 60%. Putting the quarter cent in perspective, on a $100 purchase, that's an additional 25 cents. On a $400 purchase, a TV set, it's an extra $1. And on a $1,000 refrigerator, it's an extra $2.50. Probably over the years, the biggest concern that's come to me is from merchants who have large ticket items like automobiles. On a $30,000 automobile purchase, an additional quarter cent would mean an additional $75 in sales tax. I think that helps put it in perspective.
And on your Facebook page too, it says if you're buying a $20 t-shirt, it amounts to just 5 cents more. Is that going to break the bank for the average voter in Johnson County?
Nick, that's a great question. And I would say if you want to talk about a t-shirt, you're absolutely right. But a cohort of yours, Dave Helling, had an article in the Star not too long ago, and he talked about this sales tax on groceries costing the average Lenexa, which I would guess is the average Johnson Countyan, about $730 a year just on those purchases for groceries. Now, I don't know if those figures are right, but Johnson County already has the highest sales tax in the nation on food. And we're going to add another quarter cent. And if you're on a fixed income, a limited income, that's an issue for you.
The sales tax on food is a state legislature decision. And I would not be opposed to the state legislature lowering the tax on food. The state sales tax is 6.5%. But that's a state legislative decision. We have no ability to modify that decision at the local level.
When people are paying for this quarter cent sales tax, though, it doesn't just go to the courthouse, it doesn't just go to a new coroner's lab, which we mentioned at the beginning of this program, but $4 out of $10 almost raised goes to local cities to be distributed to those local cities. I was just looking at your own site there, from $42 million to Overland Park to $11 million to Leawood. Why?
State law requires it. We have to follow the state law, and the state statute says every countywide sales tax must be shared with the cities. And the formula is based upon assessed valuation and population. So the larger cities receive more than the smaller cities.
So the county had no choice?
Well, I think Ed is right. That law is a 50-year-old construct. It's from a different time and a different way of doing business. And I would argue that we need a new way of thinking, quite honestly, because if we're going to spend $400 million, I'd say, well, why don't we spend $100 million on mental health services and keep people out of the criminal justice system to start with?
What if this sales tax fails? Does the wheels of justice grind to a halt in Johnson County, Michael Ashcraft?
Well, quite honestly, Nick, if it does fail, I would say we should be able to step up to the challenge. And if we can't, then the citizens, the voters, should really be looking for different appointed and elected leadership.
I would say this, the only option left is a property tax. And I would ask my colleague, would he support an increase in the property tax to renovate and maintain the existing building?
And would you, Michael Ashcraft?
I would support the effort to use the existing resources we have. Our total budget is almost $750 million. I think we could easily squeeze, and when I say easily, it will require us to use our noodle and make sure our pencil is sharp, an extra $2 or $3 million a year. Just a few weeks ago, we spent almost $250,000 on a new parking lot for commissioners. The parking lot we've got now is just fine, just like your table. It may have a couple of scratch and dents, but it works just well. So I think we just need to be sharper with our pencil.
Both sides of the Johnson County public safety tax issue, as represented by Johnson County Chair Ed Eilert and Johnson County Commissioner Michael Ashcraft. Next week on the program, we run down your ballot on both sides of state line as we sharpen our pencils here with our reporters in our pre-election week in review. I'm Nick Haynes from all of us here at KCPT. Thanks for spending part of your weekend with us.